Talk, episode 60. I'm Todd. This is AJ.
Yo.
And we're back.
Here we are.
60 episodes deep, man. It's a lot.
It's big 6-0.
It's crazy. Moved into a new number. I don't know what the word to think of. 60s, you know, it's because it was in 50s before.
Mm-hmm.
60 episodes.
Dude,
It's wild.
It really is wild. And when I think of the day that we first started doing this,
Yeah.
would have never thought.
What would you have thought?
I would have never thought that we'd be hitting 60 episodes deep going, you know what? We have a real show.
It's a show, man.
It's
That's
kind
what
of
it
crazy.
is.
Really is, man.
Hey, if you're new to Real Talk, I'll give you the spiel at the end because you're already probably trying to click off of here. So it's a chance to talk about God and the Bible and all kinds of things in between.
Hey.
So welcome. We typically like to start the show with how our weeks are going. But
That's
before
right.
we do, I'd like to point out, before the crowd notices, this table last week, completely stable. This week, sometimes when I think, see, you're going to notice that I may be looking at that periodically. Or if you're on the podcast, you're wondering what that odd sound is. That would be my cup moving. And I got a thing, man, with these little things that happen. That's why I'm kind of a squirrel sometimes.
That's very true.
Like when intern Clint does his weird dance moves in the back, you know, while I'm talking, or you've seen it before. Or
Yes, I have.
I'm immediately off topic. So it's me, man. I'm like a squirrel. I'm very easily distracted sometimes.
Yes.
But then other times...
But you have great attention to detail.
Yeah, to an annoying degree. And then there's times, like right now, when we have no one in the sanctuary, where I'm able to just pretend that it's full, you know? And I don't get distracted quite as much.
It's pretty impressive, man.
So unless intern Clint yawns like a dragon. Like a dragon. Yeah. Which he does. Listen, if you guys, you know, some of you on the podcast particularly, or those out of state, you don't know who intern Clint is. Those of you local do. Everything he does is loud. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong.
Great guy. We love him dearly. Very talented and skilled. But boy, it's almost comical how he does it. He doesn't even need to. So anyway, we spent half the show so far talking about.
You know what it was? I bet you it was Clint's superhuman strength. I bet you he bent the.
I actually
steel.
considered that.
I bet you he bent the steel of this table. Now it's not. It's not straight.
People think that's a joke. He snapped one of our coffee tables in half.
Eating cereal.
We'll bring that half on here to prove, unless we chucked it finally. Did we chuck it?
I don't know if we chucked it or not.
Oh, it's still there. We'll show it. I actually want you to know when I brought this up, because I talked about this before we started, that I was going to say it was bent, wasn't it? He bent it.
I bet you.
Because he just touches things and so. We love that guy. He does a great job. He does do a great job, right?
We should have an episode that's just dedicated to intern Clint stories.
I have one from last week on our live edition.
Okay.
Every time we bring intern Clint on our show, and he wants to be, he does a great job. He's a great conversationalist, got a lot of good thoughts, but also randomly rage-filled for no reason. He had to eat a hot thing on our live and just started yelling again for no reason.
Why is it always me?
And then afterwards, he apologizes, right? Because he feels bad, because he's a very gentle giant.
No, absolutely.
But man, he just, when the camera's on, his rage grows. That's just how it goes. We love you, Clint. Appreciate you, buddy.
Love you too. Yeah, I said love you too. As if I was Clint. I'm an idiot.
You're not Clint. So this whole time I'm talking about you. I didn't know.
What do you mean?
Anyway, so welcome to Real Talk. Nice. Go ahead. Those on the podcast already, I apologize to you. Yeah. We started also what our plan moving forward for those on the podcast, and you know, even those watching right now, is we're going to start putting descriptions of what we talk about.
Yes.
Instead of just the
like your generic
the series number. We've even considered possibly doing titles of the episode.
Absolutely.
So we'll look into that, but hopefully that helps you guys as you're going through and finding things, and particularly, you know, what is this about?
Absolutely, especially if you're looking for something specific. So
yeah. Anyway, man, so how's your week been?
Very interesting. I've been very reflective and contemplative the past probably 2 or 3 days. I took a random trip to my hometown yesterday. And it was just very, I don't know, man. It's so funny how...
You think it's like a turning point or a fork stuck in the road?
Possibly.
Did time grab you by the wrist?
It directed me where to go. Absolutely.
All right.
Shout out. You know who you are. Billy Armstrong. So, it was very interesting going back to that. Whenever I go back to Rochester, I'm always so, because I'm a sentimental person like you.
Yeah, I am.
And, I can look around at so many places and I can just go where there's that memory and there's that memory and there's that memory. And it's very emotional and it's very, I don't know, man. It just made me think of how quick time goes.
Man, you're not kidding.
It just flies, man. And it's so crazy because when I sit back and I actually think about it, because I think a lot of the time I don't actually think about the idea of time. Like I don't think about it. Days go by, and then when I actually think, oh wow, like when I finally get back to that place where I'm thinking about it, there's been so much time that's passed. Whether that's like a week, I'm like, where'd this last week go? Or whether it's a month or whatever, a year, And so being 25, it feels like yesterday I was 18 and graduating high school and starting life. And now, 7 years later, here I am. And sometimes it's like, what happened? Like,
to that time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, it makes you think of the good, makes you think of the bad. So, there's parts of me that go, man, like, what have you done? There's, I can feel regret sometimes of like, I should have done this or should have done that, because even though I'm only 25, there's some things where it can feel like I was like, oh, I'm too late, or whatever it may be. And so it just kind of made me think of that kind of stuff. But I also, remember the good stuff and, going back to that place, I got to see a lot of places and remember like, man, look at that time of my life where it was just much more simple, and whatever I was doing in that moment was the most important thing in the world. And what a cool thing. And like, it's interesting how adulthood and growing up changes that. And I don't think it's supposed to, but it seems to in almost everybody. At least that's what it feels like. And I don't know, just really convicting, but also like, it was good, but also somber at the same time. And just made me reflect a lot. And I'm still processing, just thinking about like life really, like in time. And, I know for me, sometimes I can think of life on a scale of like, 100 years, even though a lot of people don't reach to live up to 100.
You're like blessed to reach that. Yeah.
Exactly. Nowadays, yeah, it's very rare. So I think, being 25, I'm like, holy cow, like, according to my scale of 100 years, I'm a quarter of the way done. I'm like, that's scary. But then I think, well, I'm probably more than a quarter because most people don't reach that age. So then that scares me a little bit. And it's funny because I'm not necessarily scared of dying or like scared of death. It's just more like a, whoa. Like what?
Like reality.
Exactly.
Facing reality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, man, like time doesn't stop for anybody. It never stops. It doesn't matter what's going on. Life never stops, and it just keeps going. And like sometimes you put yourself in pause, and it's still moving. And like really that good. And I can look back and see key moments, especially in adulthood, where I've put myself on pause for a long time, and it's a lot of wasted time. And that's unfortunate, but I also know that I've grown a lot, and so I don't know, man. It's just a crazy concept, and I'm still wrapping my head around it, and it just makes me think about being a kid and being an adult and all these things, and I don't know, man. It's just wild concept time. So
you think it's even people always say live in the present, and I agree with that. But what does that mean? Is it possible
That's another thing
to appreciate? Because all the times, like you said, I'm the same way. I'm sentimental, and I definitely probably to a fault sort of glamorize the past and always assume like that was better. And I wonder if the reason I think it's better is because I wasn't dealing with the struggles I'm dealing with now. But I still had the struggles then, right?
Right.
And when I was there, I was probably thinking about the past then. And it's like, how do you enjoy the present and view it for what it is? You know what I mean? Is it possible?
Yes, I don't know.
It's tough, man. I don't know.
You said something, and it's always stuck with me because I actually don't think I've ever heard it before this. I think I've heard of similar things, but when you said if you're living in the past, what is it? You are
depressed.
Yes, and if you're living in the future, you're anxious.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, like how, life. When I think about what life is, life tends to be this giant massive balance, trying to balance. Wherever you're looking at in life, it's a balance. And like you said, I don't know. I don't know if it's possible to try to balance, thinking ahead, but also not living so far in the future that you're anxious, or reflecting and making it healthy, but not overdoing it and being depressed because of your past. Like all the
because you're not there.
Exactly. Because then if you're constantly trying to find that balance, going back and forth, how present are you? You're not. I don't think. So like it makes you go like, am I supposed to be like a chicken with a beak on a line and just right here? That's it. Like yeah. What am I supposed to do? Like I don't know. It's very interesting to think about, and there's so many different approaches, and people have done different things, and I don't know, man. I agree. I don't know. I don't know if I can answer that question.
Yeah, I'd be curious about you guys that are watching. Post in the comments below. I'd love to hear. Do you tend to live in the future more, worrying about what's to come, or are you kind of like we are and sort of sometimes see the past and glamorize the past and live in the past? And it's interesting too. I just had this thought. We don't seem to have a problem with living in the future because that's considered planning. Like we don't look down on that. Like they're just being responsible. But we kind of call it pathetic for people that live in the past. But they're really they're the same thing. They're just two sides of the same coin. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I think living in the future kind of continues to glamorize the idea of we're hard workers and we're always planning, and it always reminds me. I always go back to when it comes to, and I agree with you. Both are not good. And like I said, I find that to be true when I'm living in the past. I'm sentimental, which can turn to depressed kind
Absolutely.
of if I let it, excuse me. But I always, when it comes to living in the future, I think of the parable that Jesus shares. When he talks about the rich guy who had a great harvest, and he said, I'm just going to put this in my storehouse and chill and do nothing. Mm-hmm. And then you hear the Lord comes. God says, you fool, your life will be cleaned from you this very day. Just this idea of thinking, living in the future. We aren't promised tomorrow.
That's so true.
And yet we can act like we have some sort of control sometimes over things we don't. I think it's just an illusion to make us feel better. If I'm the one holding this wall up, or this city up, it makes us feel better. But it's interesting. Time is weird, man, and it's funny. This tends to happen with us a lot, but I was in the same place again this week too, just yesterday. I accidentally typed in, it's so funny what started it. I was doing some online thing. I think it was actually for like calorie counting because I'm trying to get,
That's right.
I'm trying to get in shape again. For those that are new to the thing here, we've been doing P90X now for,
That's right.
This is our 4th week. And we have been doing it for real, by the way. Legit, every day. But, so anyway, that's why I was doing that. And I accidentally typed in a year older than I actually am for some weird reason. And I went back to, that's not my age. And I erased it. And I was like, but that is almost my age. And then I was like, and then even today, before we had this conversation, when I was down in welcome waiting, I go, oh my goodness. Someone said something. And then I started thinking about the next decade. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I've always been fascinated. We've talked about this a lot. People, the elderly, are fascinating to me and scary. And here's why. I see them. I'm a weird guy. This is about to show how weird I am. And I'll think, someone that's blessed and has so much wisdom at age 90, 95, 98, there are people out there. I know someone whose grandma's in her 90s. And I go, I promise you, I guarantee they remember being my age like it was yesterday.
That's right.
Because I remember being 15 even like it was yesterday. Mm-hmm. And that's crazy, right? What do they always say? What's that saying? Life is short, life is short. And it does feel like you're on a ball going down a hill and it just picks up speed.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean?
That's such a good analogy.
And then I had this other weird thought that's going to sound so crazy. So it always, for some reason, is George Washington. I think of George Washington. I was like, George Washington was my age once. Now he's been dead for 200 and so many years. That sounds crazy, I know.
No, but you're right.
But I don't know, man. Like, we don't face that stuff a lot, which ties back to God and what Jesus tells us all the time of, no, we don't want to live in anxiety. Life is short. And we're not trying to be depressing here. It's actually the other way around. I think it ties back to what you said of, man, we should be so we are blessed to wake up and take a breath and enjoy this life.
Absolutely.
And so many times we waste time thinking about the future or being too sentimental for the past, too much. It's okay to do either. And then we miss this. And then this becomes the past.
Yep.
Because I guarantee you we're going to look back and go, man, those were great days when we were filming.
It's like
Real Talk.
Exactly. It's like we're constantly playing catch up. In a way. Like we're constantly playing catch up with who we used to be. Like we're not content with who we are right now. So we look to the future and that makes us anxious. But when the time comes to where we get to that point, we go, man, I miss that.
I miss what I went through in a blur, at the time. Yeah.
It's a weird place.
Yeah, it's weird, man. It really is. That's good stuff.
Absolutely.
It's good to think about that.
Yeah, man, time's crazy. But anyways, how's your week?
I was trying to think of that before we started. I feel like a lot of times when I'm on here, I never want to seem negative to people.
Sure.
But a lot of times I think one of the things I think we do well is we're pretty transparent about our struggles too.
Absolutely.
And
real talk.
Yeah. So, I had a little conviction, I think, yesterday. I shared that with you guys. Just, it's really easy to, talking about controlling, right? Anyone that know, I'm not a controlling person, right? Because I don't like to be controlled, right? I hate that feeling but I think sometimes if I'm not in the Word and stuff, I can become controlling in a weird way.
Right.
And so this kind of realization sort of micromanaging life and trying to, and I justify it by like, well, this needs to be done. And people are, the people around me, this is good for them. So I should push them instead of like, hey, maybe we should go this way. And then letting them do that. So I had it wasn't a bad thing though. It wasn't kind of beat myself up. It was sort of like, oh man, God, thank you. It was because conviction, sometimes I feel like we have this concept of conviction. If you're not a Christian and you're listening, conviction is just, as believers, we believe the Holy Spirit's inside of us.
Yes.
In fact, I know it to be true. And it convicts us or calls attention to areas in our life that we need to change and we need to grow in and negative things we're doing and sin and stuff. So we tend to have I think we as humans often view conviction as a bad thing, right? It's this negative, like, I'm getting beat.
Yep.
And it was such a cool moment because I don't think I even shared this with you. It was a gentle conviction. It was like, instead of causing me anxiety, like I got to change, it was like, hey, look at this. And I'm like, you're right, Lord. And it was sort of, once I released this illusion of control, I was so calm.
It makes me wonder if that's what real conviction is, right? Like, I wonder if we have...
That's where the line between conviction and condemnation
is. Exactly. I wonder if moments like that, that's when it's like 100% like conviction and not like a 80-20 sort of deal where it's like 80% conviction, but you're still feeling 20% of it being condemnation. Yeah.
So that was... Yeah, it's interesting. So I thought that was pretty cool. God's cool. As far as other things, I mentioned this last week. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but what an odd time we live in.
Yeah, man.
And how it is becoming so normal. And because I will call it analytical if you're positive, for a positive way. Other people might say overthink, whichever you want to call it. I have been fascinated by the people around me.
Yep. And
how they're changing. And I know that I'm doing it too. So I'll start with myself. So I'm an extrovert, I suppose. Like when I take the tests, I'm an extrovert. Although it might surprise people, I'm kind of, my personality type, if you believe in that stuff, is the most introverted of the extroverted types. So it would always say that, like, I need my time to think.
Right.
But I'm realizing, I'm an extrovert, that I'm realizing that I am becoming pretty comfortable not being surrounded by people all the time.
Which is interesting.
And that's scary to me because
it
I am living what we were kind of warning people about. I don't want to become selfish.
Right.
And my personal convictions for myself are I never want to put my own comfort above someone else's needs. And I think that I could do that right now. If I'm not aware, that could easily happen right now. Meaning, like, by needs, I mean, like, okay, someone wants to talk. I don't really want to talk. And I don't have to because I don't have to face you right now. And I'm not doing that. If those of you out there try to get a hold of me, like, I'm not ignoring you. But I think that I have to be honest about I'm more comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. And that's weird. So then I put myself in the shoes of someone who's an introverted person, right? Part of me gets irritated with these personality types because it's like you have to be either or, and I don't like that. But so what happens to someone that's really comfortable with being alone? They withdraw even more, and I don't know, man. It's just an odd thing. We had a buddy who worked at the local mart, the local General Mart, and they've controlled how people come in. Mm-hmm. This goes back to how people are changing. And it's a simple thing, like they want you to walk in one way and walk out another, so they can kind of control the flow. They have to count how many people are in there because social distancing.
That's right.
And he has been all his job is to say, "Hey, sir, can you come in the entrance?" And I know this guy; he's a very polite guy.
Absolutely.
And he was cussed at. He was physically shoved. He was called names, like because he reminded people. So man, I hate to say it, but you kind of can become jaded and see like humans are just animals sometimes, man.
Yeah,
like
dude.
Society's the only thing keeping some of us from running around killing people and stealing and pillaging. Like, they just, which to me as a Christian shows absolutely it's sin, right? Like our sin nature is so strong.
Yes.
So that's another thing I've been looking at.
And it's so scary. It's so scary because like when you think about it, like you think of that movie, The Purge.
Yeah. And
you think like what if that was like America? Like what if that was real?
I think that's kind of the point of that movie too, man. Sometimes is like this could happen here, and you know something like The Purge, right? The idea of that is, you know, I think it gets deep when you read it. You think they just woke up and it was like that? No, man, it's a slow fade.
That's right.
And I don't know, really fascinated by that, and it gives a lot of time for self-reflection during this time because you're not around people as much. I have had my faith going with all of this, so catching myself in these areas I need to grow in, watching people change around me, society.
Dude, it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's making me kind of. I don't even think I've told you this. It can make you question your faith.
Absolutely.
I'll be honest. As a Christian, there are times, you know, and maybe I shouldn't supposed to say this, but I do, and I go, "Is this real? I know it is."
Right.
Okay, so stay with me. But my emotions are going, "This is insanity." Like all of this stuff. Like, how are you? You know, I don't know. It's just hopefully I'm not coming across as negative because it's not a negative thing to me.
Right.
I'm just, depending on if you like this trait or not, overthinking or analytical. And man, it's an interesting time. And I can't help but go, what are we going to be like when this is over? You know, what are individuals going to be like? Have you ever seen movies where crazy stuff happens? I'm trying to think of an example. Actually, you know what would be a great example? The Stanford experiment.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so those of you who don't know, you can look this up. This was a real experiment, and they've done movies on it. I'll try to make it brief. We may get facts wrong, but the gist of it is Stanford University did a study.
That's right.
Where I think it was like 2 weeks, right?
2 weeks.
And they took like
a month.
It was a month, okay. Whatever, some amount of time. It wasn't super long.
No.
And they took a group of people, it was like 16 people or something.
Yeah.
And they did 12 of them or 10 of them or whatever were inmates.
That's right.
And the rest were guards.
Yep.
And they took these people based on kind of personality traits and they put them in here.
That's right.
And they literally treated them this way. They gave the guards ultimate power and they gave the prisoners, like, you know, they were treated as prisoners. They can only come out, all this stuff. Well, over time, I mean, it was like within 2 weeks, all of a sudden, a lot of the guards became sadistic. Yes. These are people who were like mild-mannered elementary teachers. When given this power, became sadistic and were cruel. And then the people that were calm became panicky and screaming and going nuts. And it was really creepy. They had to end the experiment early because it started going so bad.
Yep.
Here's my point of that. I really like the movie, one of the movies I've watched about this, because so all this crazy stuff happens, right? They end the experiment early and then they walk out and everyone immediately goes back to
normal.
Who they were. They're normal. Right? So they
it's so creepy.
Yeah, man. So I wonder, I'm getting goosebumps.
Yes.
Think about some of the relationships and some of the things you're doing right now, those of us out here, okay? Like we think, oh, it's crazy. And so people run around stealing toilet paper and pushing people and shoving people at the local General Mart and cussing and doing crazy stuff. And then like when society comes back, are we all just going to pretend this didn't happen? Are you going to pretend that you didn't, or even at church, right? We didn't talk for 2 months. We're going to come back and pretend that we're all like, oh, hey, love you. Do you know what I'm saying, man? Like that's almost creepy to me. And I don't know, man. I think that's fascinating to me.
Me too.
The idea, and that image is always in my head of that. I can think of Forrest Whitaker, if you've seen it. The actor played this really kind of awkward, and he became the head of the guards, and he was evil. And as soon as he walked out, he was like,
yeah, shrunk back.
Yeah, man. I'm like, are we going to do that? Is that going to happen here? It's like, are we all going to go back and pretend, maybe it isn't pretending, but I guess not all of us are doing it, but some people that are going like super selfish. I think we talked about this, cracks. Mm-hmm. There are people we personally know that showed their cracks now. Are they going to pretend we didn't see this?
Right. Like it's like in a time like this where it's very stressful, right? Like you said, the cracks are starting to show, and then it's like they put like a layer of concealer back over it and just put it back on. Like,
yeah. There's people that have acted a certain way, treated other people a certain way under the guise of social distancing. Mm-hmm. And I've talked to you about this. And they're going to come up and go, hi, I would like to lead this or that. And I'm going to go, you don't think I remember? Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or like, they can't, we're in a church, so I can say this, church position, but like, okay, you didn't come to church at all, and now you want to come to church means even virtually. Mm-hmm. You didn't and now you want to lead this ministry? Right. So is it only important when the lights are on? Right. And I'm not trying to be cynical, but
sure.
And I think that for myself too. Like, we want to make sure we do that. Dude, does that make sense?
Absolutely.
That's just an interesting concept.
That's such a surreal thing to think about, man. Wow.
Yeah. So it is what it is. It's intriguing. One little cool positive. So our life group, just throw this out there, another cool thing. Yeah. Finally this was on me. We're buying crossword puzzles and Sudoku. Is that how you pronounce it?
It's Sudoku.
Never played it.
Me either.
Also, I don't know how to play solitaire. I'll just confess all the embarrassing things I don't know how to play solitaire.
It's okay, man.
And so we bought a bunch of them because, they're sort of quarantined, and we're taking them to them this week. So I'm really excited about blessing. We're blessing some people in our community.
Dude, it's so cool that we're able to do this.
Trying to think about, ways to just continue. I've been thinking a lot about how can we tangibly bless people during this. So many cool things going on out there, though. As good news too.
Oh, absolutely.
I know. Once again, I feel like we're shouting out big G's a lot, but I just read again they just randomly were giving out free meals.
Dude, they're making moves, man.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Shout out.
I know churches giving free meals and churches handing out stuff. So I think that's pretty cool. There's a lot of good showing itself through all this too.
Oh yeah.
So that's neat. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Got a couple questions.
Cool.
How are we doing on time? Intern guy, he gives us a thumbs up.
Nice.
Not that we're going to listen. Actually, ironic. Here's our question today. Send into, by the way, if you want to shoot an anonymous topic or question, up above, you will find a link, www.theremnant.life/real-talk. We have answered 1,162 questions. Mm-hmm. We need more, guys. We're running low, so if any thought, question, topic, please shoot that in there. Excuse me. But, number 1162, how do you see God in the coronavirus today? And how can you stay committed to Him during this time?
I think God's using the coronavirus in multiple ways for different people. That's what's so incredible about God is He can take one thing and make it mean so many different things, right? To who the believer is, right? And I think that He can use this as a time to bring people to Him. He can use this as a time to refine people who already believe in Him. I think it's a time where, I know we've kind of talked about this, but it can bring people closer, whether that be a family. It can bring people closer, whether that be believers who need to, we talk about community a lot, right? Bringing people closer in the sense of community, even in times where it feels like we can't, but we can, And I think the way you do that is just continue to do what He tells you to do, right? So prayer, reading, people think that it's hard to get in community right now, but, even though it can be a curse sometimes, but technology can also be a blessing in a time like this.
That's
with
true.
with your video chats, with even just messaging people. Put us back in a time where technology wasn't as advanced and people literally couldn't see each other. We can still see each other.
It's good. Yeah. What if this had happened? Yeah, a long time. That's true.
Absolutely. So.
Yeah, I would kind of agree. I think I can see God in the coronavirus in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
I see God's hand in his people and the way that they've loved on some people during this time.
Absolutely.
And how they have taken care of people. I've seen God's hand in making people, particularly early on, face mortality. Remember when this first came out, everybody was like, and we still don't know where it's going to end, but really freaked out. Like, oh my gosh, people, what's the percentages? What are people dying? And I think it made a lot of people start thinking about life. And when you start really thinking about life, you start thinking about God.
That's right.
So
that's so good.
Maybe a wake-up call in that way. I've seen in my own life, like I've already mentioned numerous times, in the sense of these times are making me think about myself and who I really am and what's my character really like when it's hard and all those kinds of things.
Dude, that's so good.
How do we stay committed to them? I think you said it. We stay faithful even in the hard times. We stay in the Word.
That's right.
We look for ways to love people.
Mm-hmm.
Are we looking for ways to love our neighbor as ourselves? That's an area I've been convicted in, like looking for those ways, not just saying, okay, if someone comes to me, I'll help them. How can I look for that?
Yes. And at the end of the day, no matter what's going on around us, that doesn't change what we do. It doesn't change your call, So that's another thing to keep in mind. But yeah, that's really good.
That's good, man. Good stuff. I'll let you ask this next one.
Okay.
It's right here. Don't read that part.
Okay.
Just that part.
All right, next question is, do you think God would allow separation/divorce in a marriage to bring one closer to him?
So do you think God would allow separation/divorce in a marriage to bring one closer to him? So what we believe, and I think is biblical, is marriage is not supposed to be temporary or transient, or it's just not. Jesus talks about, what God has joined together, let no man separate.
Amen.
And now, that being said, there are times that it's permissible.
Yeah.
And because of covenant being broken, so adultery and all those kinds of things, abandonment, these types of things where the other spouse shows themselves to not, I don't know, sometimes they're a believer, but
right.
In some cases they're not. Or if you become saved, your other person doesn't, and they leave you for that. Those kinds of things.
Yeah, man.
But God. So I don't think God ever makes that. So because of the way marriage is viewed, I don't believe God ever says, I want them to get divorced so that I can, that's my will, my greatest desire. So they're divorced for me to use to grow them or whatever it says, right? What does it say? Grow closer to him? Is that what it said? Let me look.
Like they're asking if he would use it to grow closer.
He said, do you think would allow?
Would allow.
So I don't think it would necessarily. So yes, I think God uses those things to refine us, and I think that it's another perfect example of God taking broken situations and bringing beauty out of it.
That's exactly what I was going to lead to.
Man, he tends to do that. We give him that phrase "beauty for ashes." I know that's become pretty popular, but it's true. We give him the brokenness of our life.
Yes,
and he can restore it and make something beautiful out of it.
Yes.
So I absolutely believe that God can use that and can bring beauty out of it. And I've heard of stories that way. I personally know people who God has done beautiful things through it. And we got to remember God's overall goal is to draw us closer to him and make us more like him, like Jesus. So he can use those things.
I got nothing else to add. That's exactly what I was going to bring up, was just the idea that God can use things that were not for him, and he uses them to grow us. So absolutely, he can make things beautiful out of things that weren't meant to happen.
Yep.
So that's exactly what I thought.
Marriage is a beautiful thing, man.
Absolutely.
What a scary thing too, and I get it.
Yes.
That's what makes it so beautiful, though, is that you have these people voluntarily, committing to each other through sickness and health and all those things. So pretty cool. I think that's all we got today as far as questions, man.
Awesome.
You got any other thoughts?
Nah, man, just besides 60 episodes, how surreal. That's so awesome, man. Just thank you guys so much for joining us. I hope you guys get something out of this. Like Todd said, we want to try to kind of, not necessarily theme episodes, but just get like some titles in there or some stuff to help you guys. If you guys are looking for something specific, you might be able to find something. If you're listening on the podcast, thank you guys so much for joining us in this ministry. And we'll try to not say as much as like I just did. So,
hey, I think we're getting better.
I think we are. Slowly but steadily. I agree. So, I love you guys.
Yeah, hey, we love value input, particularly positive. But so please, do you guys enjoy when we sort of just talk about life and let the conversation flow? Do you enjoy the questions? This is what it really grew out of is the questions.
Right.
So as we mentioned earlier, please help us out and shoot some questions or topics.
Absolutely.
Remember, your question or topic sometimes isn't even for you. It's for the other people that are going to have the same questions. That's one of our favorite things to say is like when you ask these questions, you're not just asking for yourself. You're asking for all the people out there that may have not had the courage to ask or just haven't thought to ask it. So thanks so much to those of you that have done that. And for those of you that join us each week, man, we are so blessed. Truly. If you have enjoyed this or appreciate it, would you do us a favor and continue to share these videos? And like we said, put a little blurb at the top when you share it. People tend to do that, make it more personal. Because sometimes I think people think we just make them share it,
Right.
They're like,
we got like a giant group of
army.
Share this.
Yeah. So, whatever you want to put in there, just that you enjoyed it. If there's something specific you liked,
right.
I think that gets people to watch it. Other than that, up above, like I said, the link's there. If you'd like to donate to this ministry, shout out right now because we got some.
That's right.
Sarah. Man, can I say her last name? I think Sarah L.
There you go.
Sarah L. Thank you so much for your donation to Real Talk. We appreciate you so much. Crawfish, you know who you are. Thank you, brother.
Appreciate you, dude.
Man, and Regina, you know who you are as well. Man, we are so blessed that you support us. And,
it means the world, truly.
Yeah, truly it does. And we'll probably do another shout out on the live.
Absolutely.
Just in case they miss it. But thank you for what you've done, and that goes directly back to the ministry. If you want to donate to Real Talk, it's www.theremnant.life/give and do the drop down, click the drop down box, go down to Real Talk. If you are on the podcast, same thing works. I don't know if we can add that there. You think?
We can try.
But if not, it's www.theremnant.life/give. If you want to check out our website at any time, you can go to www.theremnant. That's REMNANT.life.
Boom.
And check out, past messages, sermons, and all kinds of stuff.
I love it. It's
pretty much it, right? Me too.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Alrighty. So, hey, we hope you guys have a great day. We're very blessed to be a part of your day and to have you be a part of ours. And we hope you have a beautiful week. God bless you.